You are now tuned into First and Locks with Rico's Locks and BK Picks. Here's your host, Rico's Locks.
Welcome back, everybody. Second episode of the First and Locks podcast. We're here to talk about the ACC today. How we doing today, BK?
It's another day in paradise, you know. We get to talk about college
You
football.
look ecstatic, man. Come on. We need
Always.
some energy. Let's
We're
go.
talking about football, man.
Yeah, we
I sound
talking
like Herm
football.
Edwards right now. Football.
Anyways, I appreciate everybody for subscribing to the channel so far. I appreciate everybody liking, subscribing, all that. If you're just even watching the show just now, I appreciate you. BK, anything you want to say to the followers, people out there?
Appreciate everybody watching all the reels that have been dropped. They've been having some great success. YouTube channel, picking up. It's strong. Appreciate all the support so far. Reached out to a bunch of people, asked them to watch, gave me some reviews. So definitely, it's always appreciated to get some constructive criticism for sure.
Yeah.
And I have one quick thing to say to all of you that have been loyal followers of BK and Rico. If you want them to continue to push this sort of platform that they're doing on YouTube, then share the podcast. You guys need to be the first base that you guys are fans. You guys need to share this podcast out there. Get everybody listening to the college podcast, First and Locks.
Appreciate that, my man, Cal. And he does all the editing and all that for us. So I appreciate all that work that he does for us. Let's get into the show, man. Whenever you're ready, let's get into the show. We wanted to introduce y'all to some segments we're about to start getting into. The one that BK really wanted to get into is the I Told You So segment. So we're going to be having games where we're talking about that we're going to be on opposite sides of. And obviously, one of us is going to be telling you, I told you so. So that's going to be a fun segment. We're also going to have the Homer report because obviously you see we're both wearing our teams. I'm a big UNC fan, have been ever since I was born. And BK, obviously, big Clemson fan. So we're going to be bringing you those reports as well.
Opposite side, all about DePaul. My fault.
You good. But yeah, those are the segments we're going to start bringing into the show. Other than that, let's start with the worst teams, and then we'll get to the best teams. So starting with the worst team, let's go with Stanford. That's who I got rated the worst team.
Wow.
I don't know about you. That's who I have rated at number 17 in the conference this year in the ACC.
For me, worst team by far is Virginia. It's not close. Tony Elliott, this is third year there. I think it's put up or shut up. If they don't do something, he's going to get fired. Only reason why, he hasn't been fired already, in my opinion, is to do some outside variables, some unfortunate situations that's happened at Virginia, school shootings, things of that nature. So it's important, for him to be able to get this on track year 3 now. He's 6-16 overall in those 3 years.
Yeah.
And this roster is by far probably the worst Virginia roster we've seen in decades. So I don't have any faith in them. I got their record at 2-10. I think they're going to be abysmal.
So the only faith I will have for them is they are bringing back both their quarterbacks. Granted, they weren't good at all, but Calandria looks like he's going to be the starter. He was a true freshman last year. They had Musket starting at first, then he got a little banged up. And then they put Calandria in, and he was actually playing kind of good. It kind of worried me because I had their under wins at 3.5. And of course, they get one of their wins versus my Tar Heels and almost took my money. So thankfully, they stayed at 3 wins. And this year, they actually have Virginia at 4.5 wins, which I think is interesting. Why did they move them up a game? I don't know. I don't see 5 wins on there. So that's actually one of the futures I was going to say is that I'm betting again. It's Virginia under 4.5 wins. I agree with BK there. I don't think they'll be the worst team in the conference, but I don't think they're going to win more than 4.5 games, 5 games. Don't see it. Not with the schedule they have. As far as other talent other than the quarterback, I mean, they lost their running back, Paris Jones. They got some receiver talent, but on defense, they're looking weak too. So I don't see how they're winning many games here. Like BK said, I see 2-10, 3-9 at best.
Yeah.
So that's what I have for Virginia. And Tony Elliott, you know how I feel about Tony Elliott.
He's getting canned, bro.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we got for Virginia. But next we'll move on to Stanford then, who is, I guess, your number 16. They're my number 17. Who? That's not your number 16. Who's your next worst? But after that, I want to
You
hear.
can go ahead with yours at 16 first.
I had Virginia at 16, so
Okay.
we just went over them.
Yeah, I got you. My 16 is going to be Duke. I think Mike Elko leaving, now head coach at Texas A&M. Not only that, but losing their defensive coordinator as well. They had several impact players go in the transfer portal. It's going to be tough for Manny Diaz, who defensive coordinator, former head coach also of Miami back in the day, to come in and be able to get things done pretty quickly. They do have transfer quarterback Malik Murphy from Texas, who I think is going to be a good player. But all in all, I predict they're going to have a very rough year. I think they'll get off to a fast start with a 3-1 start, but once they get into conference play, they're really going to struggle and have a very, very quick fall off. I got them at 4-8 at the number 16 spot.
Okay. I actually have Duke a little higher than that. I actually have Duke at 14. I'm turning over to the page because I have the magazine where I do all my records on.
Oh yeah.
I actually have them I actually have them opening up the season going 4-0 because they have a cakewalk to start the season. Northwestern, I don't think is any good. I think they could beat Northwestern there. That is a tough game, but I still think they beat them. Then they lose to UNC. Their 5th game is where I have them losing. Then after that, I have them finishing 5-7. I have them winning one more game the rest of the year at Wake Forest. Is their last?
So we're not crazy off. One game difference, you know.
I have him 5-7. I think Manny Diaz, he's a defensive minded coach. He was a D coordinator at Penn State and then a former coach at Miami. I think he's a good, fiery young coach. I think he could bring some stuff to them, but I don't think yet. I think it's too early. Losing Mike Elko is huge, man.
Yeah.
And after that, they lost players in the portal too. That wasn't good. They lost Waters to NC State. Their running back. They lost another D tackle that was really good. I forgot what his name was, but they lost him as well.
I just think it's too many moving pieces. I think it's way too many moving pieces. That's why I have them at 16. It's just way too much to do at 1 year span. It's way too much asking for Manny and Malik just to flip the switch like that. So that's why I got them at 4-8.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's talk about Stanford now because this is my worst team in the conference.
Yeah, I got you.
I don't see this team being good at all, man. I don't think this transition is going to be good for me either into the ACC. They also don't have a easy schedule really at all. If you look at it, I mean, dude, they got at Syracuse, at Clemson, Virginia Tech, Notre Dame, SMU. That's 5 straight tough games in a row to start, like right after your first 2 games are kind of easy. Well, no, they got TCU. They're not going to win that game either, I don't think. So
no,
I think they're easily going to start 1-7, 1-8. So
it was a rough first season, for Troy Taylor in general. But I do think this team has a little bit of a chance to be better. They do return a stud receiver in A.O. Manor. I think they just have nowhere to go but up, and they have a decent, returning production. They had a first-year head coach. You're talking him getting, his style of play in there and everything like that. They also fielded one of the worst defenses in the country last season. So again, I feel it's only up by here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got them. They had
the second worst defense in the nation last year, actually, to be exact. The second worst in the nation. So that's why I have them rated very low. They ranked bottom 25 in points scored. I mean, they haven't had a winning season or been to a bowl game since 2018 also. So, I mean, dude, I don't see this team being good. It's too much turnover. I mean, dude, I don't see it this year for Stanford. I only got them winning 2 games, 2-10.
Wow. I got them only winning. I said 3-9, 4-8. So
I could see that too.
There could be some crapshoot games here and there, where they just pull out a crappy win. Happens. So
right, like they could sneak a win in versus Wake. Like that's where I have them losing, but they could sneak in a win there. They could sneak in a win maybe versus Cal, but other than that, I don't see it. So, got Stanford being my worst rated team in the conference. Moving on, that would bring us to what, number 15 or 14?
Yeah, we'd be at 14 now.
I think it would be 15, but either way, I have Wake Forest next. At 15, that's what I have them on my list. I have Stanford, UVA, and then now I have Wake. I just don't think they're going to be that good this year, man. Bringing Hank Bachmeier, he transfer quarterback from Louisiana.
Yeah.
He played at Boise State before that. He hasn't really showed me anything special. That defense has been struggling at Wake Forest. I don't see it this year for them. So I think I have them 4-8, 5-7.
I have them at 5-7 myself. 4-8 record last season. You know, I don't really have a ton of confidence in them, but I do have confidence in their head coach. You know, he's one of the more consistent head coaches in college football. But yeah, the point exactly on what you said. You know, talking about Hank, he's not that much better than Mitch Griffs. He's just not, plain and simple. You know, it's not going to be easy. They do have a somewhat easy non-conference schedule that I feel like they could pull out some solid wins in. But in conference play, I do feel like they're going to struggle a lot. I got them at 5-7 this year.
They also lost a lot of talent to the portal, like a lot of talent. They already, like I said, they already struggle on defense. Yeah, I have 5-7 at best, 6-6, but that'd be a miracle for me. So yeah, that's why I have them at 15. Who else we got after that? At 14 is where I had Duke. So you kind of already went over Duke already. We already went over them. We don't really need to discuss them.
Yeah.
Who did you have at 14? That's where I had Duke.
14 was Wake for me. So for me right now, yeah, I'm at 17 Virginia, 16 Duke, 15 Stanford, 14 Wake.
So we basically had the same bottom four, just
kind of jumbled up.
Yeah, jumbled up, which makes sense. But I see those teams, being the bottom of the bottom right there. And then at 13 is where I got Pittsburgh.
We're in agreement on that one.
We're in agreement on that one. Okay. You go ahead first on Pittsburgh while I turn over to the page where I have
3-9. 3-9 last season. I don't really know what to make of this team, but I do trust Narduzzi. Kind of the same thing with Wake, trusting in their head coach. Narduzzi is just one of the more consistent guys. You know he's going to have a great defense. Even if he doesn't have the star caliber blue chip players, he's still going to have a great defense because he's going to out scheme a lot of people. Their problem is they have way too many question marks at quarterback. I can't even begin to tell you who's going to start for them day one. They've been rotating a lot in camp by what I've heard. Offense has just been a big question mark for them ever since they lost Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison. So
yeah, they couldn't run the ball last year either. They had the second worst run blocking in all of college football. Skill positions look bad. I mean, I don't see. Yeah, they got Bartholomew, this tight end, who's supposed to be decent. Another decent wide receiver, Munfried, but not impressive numbers at all. He had 44 receptions, 575 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Like that's nothing to jump off the page and be like, this guy's going to be a stud.
Yeah, no. especially when you're talking about, like, again, we don't know who even's going to play quarterback for them game.
They're saying that Bama transfer, his name's Eli Holstein, is what I was reading earlier. Eli Holstein is apparently, him and Nate and Yarnell are in a battle.
So
you don't know what you're going to get.
Bama's third, fourth string quarterback might be starting for them.
Yeah, it really could be worse than what we're saying, but we trust them because their coach and their defense is usually something to lean on. That's why we have Pitt where they're at. But yeah, Pitt is one of those teams who can upset teams that just they beat a Clemson team that you're like, how the fuck did they beat them? They beat a, you know what I'm saying? They just beat teams when they're not supposed to beat them. They're always that kind of team.
But that just goes back to Narduzzi. Like I said, he's going to out scheme a lot of coaches. It's just how it is. He can pull those upsets just because, plain and simple, he's just going to out scheme you.
Yeah, exactly.
But so I've got them at 4-8, 5-7. Like I said, I really don't know what to make of them, but I do trust them again to be able to get an upset.
Interesting because they're over/under on FanDuel. Over/under wins 5.5 plus money for the over, minus money for the under. So what would you take there? I'd probably go under.
I'd go under.
Probably have them at 5.
And 5 for me that's why I said 4-8, 5-7. Even though the teams with Wake,
5-7.
I had Wake also being 5-7. They're just. I don't know. These teams are so close into each other. It's like when you're looking at their schedule, somebody's going to have to lose. But if you're predicting it right now, I'm going to say 4-8, 5-7. I would take the under if I was to do that.
Yep. I'm not going to be doing too many more future wagers right now. I already
No.
got a lot in. Y'all have already seen I got some in, but I do like the UVA one a lot. I will be on that one again for sure. Could be on one more that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, I do think Pitt falls at that 5 and 7 range. They, not too easy of a schedule either. It's at the end of the season. Let me see here next. Who we got next? Who did you have at your 12 spot?
12th spot for me is going to be Boston College.
Same here.
Bill O'Brien set to enter in his first season.
That's crazy, right? That he just came in April. It was in like spring ball. He just came in. The coach just dipped, said, "I'm going to the NFL."
Yeah,
and comes Bill O'Brien. Wild.
They do return Castellanos, who's probably one of the better running quarterbacks in the ACC. Can he upgrade his passing enough to be able to help them win? That's important because he's a freak of nature in the open field. But his problem is, I can't hit you that dime curl route 5 yards out every single time.
Take care of the ball. You got to take
for
care
sure.
of the ball. Yeah.
For sure. It's a lot to ask for Bill O'Brien to do it, to be able to win a bowl game or make a bowl game rather in their first season. I don't think they get there. I think they fall just short. They're 5-17 for me as well.
You got them 5-7. Yeah, I got them 6-6 actually. Being their upset, I have an upset win. I have them beating Syracuse at home.
Okay.
So I could see them being in that 5-7, 6-6. But I got 6-6, giving them an upset win there.
And I'm not gonna lie, if they go 6-6, that's a huge thing for Bill O'Brien first year because they have not been very good here in the past couple of years. That's for sure.
What else did I write down on this team, man? I wrote down a lot of notes on this team earlier. Hold on a second. So actually, we pretty much covered everything I already said. O-line looks decent for them. Yeah. They do have a couple of transfers. Trayshawn Ward, he's supposed to be a decent running back, could be a spark for them. And then they got a tight end that's actually from Carolina, Kamari Morales. So he could be all right. But other than that, yeah, man, I see them being an average team. I don't see them doing too much.
Yeah. For sure.
Moving on, who do we got at the 11 spot? I have Georgia Tech at the 11 spot. Who do you got?
Wow. I have Syracuse. I think Syracuse is just another ACC school with the first-year head coach. They definitely have one of the easiest ACC schedules when you're looking at their schedule top to bottom. Transfer quarterback Kyle McCord, massive upgrade for the offense, along with tight end. I'm not about to butcher this boy's name. Orande.
Yeah, he was hurt. He was hurt all last year, but he is good.
Yeah, he's a freak, man. One of the better get up and get it type of tight ends. Very big vertical threat. He could definitely be an all conference type of player.
He kind of reminds me of Nesbitt for Carolina.
Yes,
kind of literally looks exactly like him.
Just the guy that sets up in the slot a lot, not your biggest blocker, but just a freak of nature that's tall and a good vertical threat down the field. I have them going 6-6. I think they'll be solid, especially, considering they have a lot of changes. But I do think they'll be pretty decently average going, of course, 6-6, 500 in their first year head coach.
Yeah, I have them at my 10 spot, so I don't knock you there. I have them 6-6 as well. I think Kyle McCord could do some work with that tight end, man. If that tight end stays healthy, he's supposed to be really good this year. They're really high on him based off what I've been reading. Kyle McCord actually had good stats. He had a bunch of stars around him at Ohio State, but despite all that, the kid had good stats, man. You can't deny that. New head coach. They also have a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator. So they have new coaching staff all around. That's worrisome. That's why I got them pretty high up. They could be better. They're one of those teams that they could be really they could be surprising and win 8-9 games. And at the same time, they could be a team that wins 6-7 games, like we just said. All right, let's go to number 9, BK. Who you got for number 9?
Well, for me, number 9 is going to be Georgia Tech. I think Brent Key had a very good first season for the Yellow Jackets. They bring back 9 starters from one of the best ACC's offenses. There's a lot to like about them. You know, Haynes King, Jamal Haynes, a deep wide receiver room. They led the ACC in rushing last year as well. The concerns are about the other side of the ball and a tough schedule, in my opinion.
Yeah.
New defensive coaching staff and the transfer portal additions be enough to fix all the defense? I don't know. I got them going 6-6 this year.
See, for me, man, I have them about the same. That team has a tough schedule. They usually always do, but they're always that team that beats a team that they shouldn't beat. Like they always beat UNC, like my team. They always beat them. Like I think this team, which I actually have them beating us again. They're always a team that wins games. Like they won't beat Miami in that miracle game. Remember last year?
Yeah.
That was
All they
crazy.
had to do was take his knee.
Yeah, and that's bad coaching by Miami, which we'll get to when we talk about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Haynes Keen's a good quarterback, man. I really think that their offense is going to be good this year. It's their defense that we worry about with Georgia Tech. They don't have the size on the front side of the ball. They have okay corners. I just don't see it, man. I think they're a 5-7, 6-6 team. That's why I have them all the way at 10-11 is where I had them. So yeah, that's all I got with Georgia Tech. I do think they keep it close in that first game with Florida State. Remember, I mentioned that. I do not close, but I think they cover that spread. So
I think one thing I wanted to note as well, I had Cal at 10, and I think Cal is a team that's kind of flying under the radar. I do think they could be a lot better than what people think they are.
That's why I have them at 9.
Jade Knott, I think, is probably the best running back in the conference. Offense showed some great progression. Wilcox, usually produces a good defense, but it's to be determined. They do have some tough games: Miami, Auburn, Florida State. I don't know, man. I think they'll be a bowl game team. I do like them.
All right, first off, relax, because Jade Knott's good, but he's not the best running back in the conference. You know who the best running back in the conference is.
We'll see.
Anyways, yes, I agree. I got him ranked 9th on my list. I think Carson Edwards, or what's his name? What's the quarterback's name that they got the transfer? Some Edwards. I'm trying to find my notes I have on them. But they have a transfer. No, Chandler Rogers. Sorry, Chandler Rogers.
Oh, I was about to say. I was like, who are you talking about?
Chandler Rogers transferred from North Texas. He was decent at North Texas. He had some pretty good numbers. This could be a really explosive offense, low key. Like, there's a team that you wouldn't think, but they have a very easy schedule too. Honestly, if you look at it,
I think they'll be an upset team, man. They'll get a couple of wins they really shouldn't get, but I definitely think they're going to be a fun team to watch.
Pretty underrated transfer portal class, honestly. It's going to be interesting to see. Their coach has been there 8 years, man. I mean, 6-7 last year. I think this year I got them 7-5. So I think they'll get that bowl game. Decent bowl game, a 7-5 bowl game, typical UNC kind of bowl game. I mean, dude, they got at Auburn their second week of the season, bro.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That they have that Auburn, Florida State. Who else was it they had Florida as well?
State, yeah, that's 2 L's right there. And then they got Miami at home, and then they got at Pittsburgh. I got them winning that game. Then they got NC State at home, which that could be interesting game. But I got NC State winning that game.
Yeah.
Then they got Oregon State.
I definitely think if they can get one of those 3, it would be a huge boost for them, especially being a first year in the ACC. But I'm not sold on them defensively. So defense wins football games. So
right, yeah, I'm not either, man. They, like I said, they did all right in the transfer portal. They did get a receiver from Notre Dame, Tobias Merriweather. He's pretty good. But they did lose a star receiver who had 7 touchdowns last year for him. What was his name?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Jeremiah Hunter. Yeah, something like that. I wrote it down. But anyways, moving on. Who do you got at the 8 spot here?
8 spot for me is going to be Louisville. I think the correct way to say that as well, Rico. Louisville. Anyway, the Cardinals. The Cardinals, they did really good last season under Jeff Brom, coming over from Purdue, ACC title game. Did lose, however, they definitely had a great first year under him. They do have some question marks at the quarterback position. Can Tyler Shuff, can he have a season where he actually stays healthy for a
That's what I
decent
was
amount of
gonna say.
time? The wide receiver group is extremely talented. The defense is probably one of the better in the ACC. Did lose two potential impact transfers, Penny Boone and Tyler Barron. But all in all, I do think they'll be a solid team. I got them at 7-5.
Yeah, they kind of scare me at the running back position too. Losing Jordan, it's a big loss. He lost him to the NFL. Tyler
100%.
Show obviously he's still not proven to me either. He's got to prove it. He didn't make it a full season last year. He was had like 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, like some mid numbers. So I mean, he's got to prove it, man. I mean, they did get a couple good receivers in the portal. Colin Lacey from Southern Alabama,
Yeah.
he's good. He's a baller. So I mean, this team's going to be pretty good. I think I could see them going 8-4 at best, 9-3. They don't have a really hard schedule, to be honest. Let me see. Let me go back to where their schedule's at.
I think more or less they'll rely on defense a ton. So I got them at 7-5, 8-4. They'll rely on their defense a ton. Offense is going to have a lot of growing pains. So
last year their defense averaged 21.3 points per game, 317 yards per game. That's not bad. So yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that. Like I said, they don't have too hard of a schedule. I got their losses at Notre Dame, at Clemson, at home versus Miami, and that's actually it. They could lose another game in that mix, but I have them 9-3, 8-4. So
all right, coming up on the 7th spot,
and that's strong considering they're at 8th spot and I have them 8-4. So
yeah.
Who you got at the 7th spot? This is where we get to my team. That's who I
got. Yeah, that's what I've got as well. It's going to be the North Carolina Tar Heels. They are going to be definitely a weird team. They've got a lot of changes, when it comes to quarterback, having back-to-back NFL caliber players at the quarterback position. Is Mac Johnson going to be able to get it done? I'm not sure. Defense, I'm still never going to trust. They give up more points than your local high school. But I think their schedule is safe enough for me to put them at 8-4. They're always going to have a solid offense, and Amarian Hampton is Amarian Hampton. Like you said, he's the best running back in the ACC, in your opinion. And to my defense, I said Jaden Ott is arguably I said the best, but I'll keep it at that. Amarian Hampton is definitely a stud. He's going to be a guy that's going to run all over defenses. I look for them to pound the rock. Strong tight end group. Don't really trust a lot of the wideouts, but that's always to be determined with North Carolina because it seems like y'all pop out some 5'9" slot guy every year. So
this is what I got to say about my team. First game of the season is going to tell us a lot. We go to Minnesota, and then after that, we could realistically go undefeated until about week 5, 6 because we have cakewalk after that. We got Charlotte at home, NC Central, James Madison. Dude, we're not losing any of those games. If we do, I'll be embarrassed. Anyways, at Duke after that, we should win that game. And then we got Pittsburgh at home, Georgia Tech at home. That could be tricky, but realistically, we could really start 6-0, and we're actually underdogs versus Minnesota in that first game. Anyways, getting into the team aspect though, we got Max Johnson starting a quarterback. I'm not really sure how I feel about him yet. I think Connor Harrell looked really good in the bowl game. He was our freshman last year. He's a sophomore this year. He looked really good in the bowl game. I thought he was probably going to be the starter until obviously this guy transferred in from A&M. His numbers don't really impress me at all though, and I'm not excited or I don't know what to expect from this guy. So he's got to prove it there. That's the only thing that really worries me about our offense. Other than that, man, we got some skilled players, man. Bryson Nesbitt, tight end. Our tight end room is arguably one of the best in the country with Copenhaver, John Copenhaver. And then we got that transfer, Jake Johnson, tight end who played for Texas A&M with Max Johnson. So that could be an interesting combo if Max is actually good. But we got Hampton at running back. We're going to run the rock. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, got to, man.
On offense. I mean, our offensive line's not really that great either this year. It kind of worries me a little bit too as well. Pretty undersized, but other than that, I think our offense could be explosive just depending on how good our quarterback is. But we got some decent receivers too. JJ Jones is decent. Kobe Paysour is really fast. He's a good receiver. So I mean, we got speed on the outside, decent receivers, but it's really going to come down to, like it always does, is the defense, which is what I was going to get to now. And I mean, we got some decent linebackers. We got Power Eccles, and then we got Desmond Evans on the end, and then who came in Rucker as well on the other end. So we got some good ends and decent linebackers. But dude, our secondary is what always kills us every single year. Every year, teams throw for 300-400 yards on us all the time. It's
for sure.
You can't outscore teams every game. So if our secondary steps up, we have a new defensive coordinator this year. If he can get us right, and hopefully not give up what it was over 250, 300 yards a game through the air, at least.
Are you familiar? Are you familiar with what defensive scheme your new guy runs?
I'm pretty sure it's 4-3, but I'm not positive. But I just
didn't know if they were going to maybe go, a little bit more modern with 3-3-5, 4-2-5.
They need to do something different. Whatever it is, they need to do something different. So. Moving on. But yeah, Carolina, man, they could start off 6-0, like I said, but it could honestly be, if we lose that first game at Minnesota, I don't know what to expect after that. I'm thinking 8-4 though is where I have them. At best, we could go 9-3 if our quarterback situation works out. I think Harrell could ultimately be the starter. Just depends on how Johnson comes out and plays, but yeah, I think we could be a decent team, man. We'll see. But nothing out of the ordinary with Mac Brown. So I know what I'm going to get. Anyway, moving on. That's what I got for my team this year. Moving on at number 6, I think we both agreed on this one. I had SMU.
Yeah.
Did you have them at 6 as well? Yep.
Yeah, I did.
6. I think they're going to be a good team on offense, but I'll let you go ahead first and talk about them.
Yeah, of the 3 newcomers, SMU is definitely going to be the most talked about and the most successful one of the group. They won the AAC last year. They have a talented roster returning for the upcoming season. The ACC schedule is also kind of favorable, with the toughest games being, Florida State, Louisville. I think this team is going to go through, a small adjustment period, but you kind of expect that, especially with any incoming team to a new conference, especially being a Power 5 conference, if you want to still consider the ACC's one. But yeah, I definitely think they're going to be a solid team, fast-paced offense. I got them at 8-4.
I agree with you there. Hold on, I think their schedule's really easy, man.
Yeah,
like I think I had them at 9-3 or something like that. Let me go to my notes I had on them, but yeah, SMU, man, Preston Stone. I mean, they played in a way weaker conference last year, but they got some studs, man, on that offense. And that tight end they got, Maynard, he's a stud.
Oh, yeah.
It's really just a question mark on defense. Can their defense play in the ACC? It's a different ball game, different conference. I like their head coach, too. You saw he tweeted at Mike. I think he tweeted at Mike Norvell and was like, we need to play NCAA or some shit instead of the coin toss or something like that. It was hilarious. But, yeah, I think they have an easy schedule, man. They got at Nevada the first game, Houston Christian at home, BYU at home, TCU at home. Like, they should start 4-0, I think. TCU, they could slip up and lose that one. But I have them winning that game. Then they got home versus Florida State, have them losing that one. Then they got at Louisville, losing that one. I got them losing 2 in a row. And then after that, man, they could really run the table and win the rest of their games. Because then they got Stanford, Duke, Pitt, Boston College, Virginia, and Cal. So really, they could go 10-2, but I have them at 9-3.
I myself, I have them at 8-4. Best scenario being 9-3.
Who do you have them losing to? I'm just curious because I don't really see who else they.
If it was me at this moment, I think more or less they're just going to have some growing pains, like I spoke on before. Within just jumping into a new conference, I don't necessarily see them losing specific games other than Louisville and Florida State, but in the same extent, I definitely think that there's games that they could possibly drop. TCU is a game they could possibly drop, as like you spoke on. BYU is always, a decent team. They could easily slip up there.
If it was at BYU, yes, I would like you. If it was at BYU, I would like BYU in that game, but it's not at BYU, so.
And I definitely think it's more or less their season split into two different sections. It's that first four where they should start off 4-0, and then they're going to probably drop, the next two games. It's how they do after those next two games when you got Stanford, Duke, Pitt, BC, UVA, Cal. Those games are extremely favorable, but that doesn't always, relay on the field. They could drop a few of those. So, I do especially if they're losing back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Now I'm looking at, I do think they drop one of those games down the stretch versus a team that they shouldn't lose to. Yeah,
exactly.
Because people are really high on this team, but people don't realize they're playing in a way different conference to what they were playing in before. This ain't,
sure.
Yeah, this ain't, same Conference USA. Anyways, let's move on to who do we have at number 5?
You can go ahead with your 5.
I got NC State at number 5.
We got to stop agreeing at some point, Rico. Come on now.
It's coming up. Don't worry. It's coming up here soon. I feel it coming. Yeah, man, I got NC State at 5. This is a team that some years you think, yeah, they can win the ACC. Like they have the pieces, but something always happens, or they just fall apart, or they're just missing a piece every year. This year, I think NC State could make some noise and really could do something, but I just feel like they're going to have that game where they just fall short, or just they don't make the plays that they make in the big game. They can't make the big plays in the big games. I just don't think I think they're going to be a 9-3, 8-4 kind of team. 9-3 is really where I see them at, but they got some dangerous talent on their team. KC Concepcion, that receiver, man, he is a problem.
Yep.
He's a speed demon. They got a tight end transfer from UConn. Justin Jolly, who's pretty decent as well, I'm being told. They still got good players, but I still think they got questions on the offensive side still with running back. I mean, their running back, they got Waters, but other than that, they don't really have a deep running back room. So,
and he's more of a receiving back.
I don't know.
He's more of a receiving back. So, I mean, he's not going to be able to push the ball. You know what I mean?
Right. But NC State has had a good defense the past few years, only allowing 20 points a game last year. I mean, they usually have a strong defense. So, what you think about NC State, man? I think they're going to be a solid team.
For me, I got State going 9-3. I think they're going to be, they've been one of the more consistent teams under Dave Doran. You pretty much know what you're going to get at this point. You're going to get, upwards of 8-9 wins year in and year out. I can't stand the freaking dude, but he's consistent as hell. I think they have some big losses on defense. Losing Peyton Wilson is always big when you lose arguably the best middle linebacker in college football. But I mean, something you pointed out that, I wanted to tap on, because you started talking on, Grayson McCall. I'm more worried about if he can finish the season. If he plays every single game, I know they're going to be exceptionally well. I think they'll be a 9-3 team easily, possibly even 10-2. But my biggest problem is if McCall goes down, they don't have anybody. MJ Morris is gone. He's now at Maryland. Who is going to step in if McCall comes out? I don't have that.
That's a good point. That's a good point too.
So, in the past couple of years, they've had MJ Morris to be able to kind of jump in and just do a spot start here and there, and he was pretty successful. He would either, blow up in your face, or he'd be a star of the game when, Armstrong was out. So another transfer guy I wanted to add on, Noah Rogers went to OSU, local kid of North Carolina, went to Roseville High School, 4-star recruit in the 2023 class, or 2022 class rather, jumped over to NC State, came back home. They did also avoid Miami and Florida State. I think the week 2 game versus Tennessee is going to be very telling. Tennessee and then turning around and having to play Clemson is not a easy task for any team to sit there and do. So
that's going to see,
I definitely think, if they can split one of those, hopefully not Clemson, but if they can split one of those, I think they'll be a successful team. I've got them at 9-3, being very solid. As long as Grayson McCall is healthy, he's going to do his thing. I trust him in that.
I agree. Just want to touch on that real quick. I agree, but he's playing up, in competition. He's not playing you know, the App States and the Texas States. He's playing ACC football now. It's different. I mean,
I
he's been
agree.
there, done that though. He's got experience though, so I agree. I mean, he's got to stay healthy, like you said. But yeah, NC State's got to split one of those two games. If they don't split one of those two games, yeah, they're looking at a 9-3, 8-4. That right. If they split one of those two games, they could have a 10-2 season if they stay
For
healthy
sure.
and all that. Yeah, I agree. Moving on, who we got at number 4? I'm pretty sure, and they're over. Or just to go over their over unders, 8.5 wins, minus 130 on FanDuel is the over. So Vegas thinks they'll go over 8.5. So. Yeah, that's probably a decent bet there, but I'm not
Yeah, for
betting
sure.
it. So.
No, I'm not taking it either, but
Nah, I don't like the line there. But
no.
anyway, moving on. Number 4, I got Virginia Tech. This is going to be a very surprising team this year because last year they were 7-6, but they were coming on strong towards the end of the year. Really good quarterback, man. Drones is a dual threat quarterback.
Yeah.
He can run the ball. He can throw the ball. Dude is a beast.
Give defensive coordinators fits.
Right. And their defense is looking strong this year. They got a big portal addition with people. I don't even know how to say his first name. Aeneas Peebles from Duke. He was a D tackle from Duke, and he's a problem.
He's a big boy.
Yeah, he's a big boy. They picked him up. They have a good running back already on the offensive side of the ball. They're a pretty well-rounded team, man. They brought back the most starters. They brought back 11 on offense, 10 on defense. So, I mean, dude, they are looking strong this year. I think Brent Key, this is a big season for him as a head coach. I see him finishing 10-2 or 9-3. Could even be 11-1. Their schedule's pretty easy, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a big year and stay healthy. They have ACC title potential for sure. They're right on that. Yeah, they're right on that. Right on the outside looking in. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they finished higher than 4. But I have them at 4.
Yeah. I think this is the year, Brent Pry's been building for more or less. They're going to have a very easy start. They're going to start 4-0. How will they finish? That's a big question mark for me.
Right, exactly. They're going to start 4-0.
Something I wanted to note was they returned the most production in the country.
Yeah, that's what I was. Yeah.
They're number 1 in the nation in returning production. So that's huge. Strong running game, very good defense. 2 things you also touched on. They'll be underdogs versus Miami on the road and Clemson at home. If they can split one of those games, they could be talking ACC title game. It's right. Just going to depend on if they can.
Low key though, they do have a little stretch right before Clemson with Boston College, Georgia Tech, and Syracuse. Remember, I said this. Those could be one of those games that they slip up. I'm just saying it could be one of those games they slip up right before Clemson. I don't know
for sure,
but I think you're right. They split one of those 2 games with Miami or Clemson. Yeah, they could be looking at the ACC title or playing for it. So yeah, Virginia Tech looks like a strong team this year, man. Pretty high on them. A lot of people are high on them, but yeah, I could definitely see them competing for the title. But I got them at 4. Well, moving on to number 3. Who you got at number 3?
Number 3 for me is going to be Miami. The Hurricanes, probably top to bottom, have the best roster in the ACC. They have some very important positions where they have undeniable talent, wide receiver room, running back room. I trust their defensive line, offensive line. I still have some question marks. They do return good production, but in the same extent, they had some rough spots last year. My biggest question mark for Miami going into this year is going to be their secondary. They lost Kitchens. They also lost their free safety. They have a favorable schedule, but my beef with Miami is it's going to be Miami. They're going to shoot themselves in the foot when they really shouldn't. But they have a uberly talented roster. It's just a matter of can they put it together finally under Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, but you got to talk about Cam Ward, man. He's that dude. Cam Ward coming from Washington State had some crazy numbers. If he can translate those numbers over to the ACC, I mean, dude, Miami is definitely a team that can go 11-1, maybe even undefeated. But I see 11-1, 10-2. I think Miami's going to be a good team this year. They got good wide receivers. Restrepo on the out, or on he's a slot receiver. Really good receiver. Got a good running back, Damian Martinez. He's a
Oregon
beast as
State.
well. Yeah, Oregon State. Yep. I can't believe he went to Miami. That's crazy. But yeah, I think Miami, man, good team this year. The thing that worries me about them is coaching. Mario Cristobal making mistakes, just like in that Georgia Tech game we talked about earlier. But yeah, I think Miami, they got a pretty easy schedule for the most part. Virginia Tech at home, at Cal, at Louisville, Florida State at home. I mean, they got their toughest game at home. So I think they have a favorable schedule as well. Yeah, I like Miami to be a really good team this year. I actually have them at 2. You have them at 3. I have them at 2. My number 3 is actually Florida State.
Okay.
So, and I don't know what you have them on your list, but we can talk about them now if you want to go ahead and talk about them.
Yeah, Florida State for me is going to be my number 2 team, defending ACC champions. I think they have the potential to win the league again, but I just don't think they're as good as last year's team. I don't think they're as put together. The defense should be excellent. You're getting guys like Georgia transfer on the defensive line, Marvin Jones. He's going to be extremely helpful. Norvell is just a really good, excellent play caller. I definitely think that they're going to have a lot of benefit, continuously running his offense. I do have question marks at quarterback for them. You know me, I don't trust DJ Uiagalelei, but I do think that he is going to hopefully take another step for them. They're definitely going to need him to. He's going to have to be able to roll out of the pocket, get out and go. That's how FSU quarterbacks go at this point for under Norvell. So I definitely think they'll be a solid team. They'll probably run by their defense. I got them at 10-2. I think they'll be just fine. But still a lot of question marks when it comes into this season when you're talking about, production that they lost.
Yeah, man, I got them at I had them at my 3 spot because I mean they're gonna be a good team, man. But like you just said with DJU, I don't know if I can trust him yet. And being a new system, new coach, all that, it's gonna be a lot for him. I think FSU is still gonna be up there with the best teams, but they lost a lot of talent. They lost Jared Vease on defense, Jaheim Bell, Jared Jones. I mean, and they lost Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson, Trey Benson.
Yeah.
Obviously, they lost their quarterback. But yeah, man, it's not the
Travis.
same Florida State team. It's a lot of in and out moving pieces. I don't see it this year for them as far as everyone thinks they're going to win the conference. I don't think they're going to win the conference this year. I think it's going to be somebody different, but we'll get to that. Now moving on to, I guess, the number 1 team who we both agree on, I guess. Go ahead and talk.
At this point, I mean, your text message earlier today, I mean, I don't know anymore, man. You got me kind of worried on the fence.
It's them or Miami for me, bro. I mean,
I hear you.
It's them or Miami. That's who I think is going to be in the ACC championship game. They don't play each other during the season, so I think they'll play in the title game.
I'll let you go ahead and get into my boys first, and then I'll take the heat for them at the end.
All right, let's go ahead then. The only worry I have with Clemson, I mean, I really like Clemson this year. I think they're going to be good, really good defensively. They have been for years. Always really good under Dabo. We're even better when they had what's his name, Brent Venables. Yeah, BV. But I mean, still, man, they're a strong defensive team. You know what you're going to get with the defense. It's the offense that I'm worried about, and what I still have a little question marks about. It's their receivers. I mean, dude, you're telling me I got to trust these freshman receivers? I know Antonio Williams is coming back, but he was hurt. I mean, dude, he's got to come back and really prove something then. And then Cade, man, his decision making wasn't the best last year. I mean, that opening game versus Duke, y'all lost that game, and I was like, oh God, what are we gonna get from Clemson this year? And then it just wasn't y'all's year. But I think this year Dabo is gonna rally the boys. Yeah, they don't use the portal. So what? I mean, they got players that stayed around. They have a lot of returning pieces as well. Really strong pieces on defense. I don't even remember the linebacker's name, but he's really good. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Don't worry, I'll say it.
You'll say it here in a second, but yeah, I think Clemson's going to be the ACC champion, unfortunately, because I don't really like them. But I do think they win. I do think they win it. Tough schedule, man, though, with at Florida State. And who else they got on the road that's tough? I don't see it in front of me. Hold on a
VT.
second. VT on the road as well. Yeah, I mean, and then they got Georgia in the opening game. So I mean, everyone's saying that's an L right there. I'm taking them to cover that spread, obviously.
Yeah.
That 14 points, I'm taking that. So yeah, I got Clemson realistically 10-2 or 11-1. I got 11-1 though. I think they're gonna run the table after they lose that first game. So go ahead.
All right, going over my boys, Clemson Tigers, man. I definitely think we're going to see big leaps from Cade this year. Phil and company as well. Phil Maffa getting his first year being as the bell cow back. I know you touched on him already, but you're trying to say I'm making you trust two freshmen. No, that's not the case at all, man. I'm not trying to sit here and say that Wesco and TJ Moore are going to be the more or less saviors. I just think they're going to provide us a lot of youth that is just exuberating in talent. I even texted you and said, it wouldn't be the first time that Clemson's had two wide receivers that were true freshmen that came in and lit up the world. Nuke Hopkins and Sammy Watkins did the same exact thing. Am I saying these guys are going to be on that caliber? Who knows, man? I would love it, but that's not to say that they will. I still think that we have enough returning as well that I can be comfortable with. Brenning Stool, who in my opinion is a top 3 tight end in the conference. Antonio Williams, who was hurt last season, but is still a very shifty, good slot receiver. Tyler Brown, who was a freshman last year, who had a strong freshman showing. I also like Adam Randall to finally hurry up and show himself. I mean, he's 6'4", 230 pounds. Throw him the dang ball.
Back to the receivers, though, real quick. I just want to say, y'all have no size, though. That's another issue at the receiver spot. There's no size.
I mean, how tall do you want him to be?
I mean, dude, your tallest receiver 6'2" is what I'm looking at.
Who? Adam Randall's like 6'3", 6'4", 230 pounds.
Okay,
TJ Moore himself is like
more 6'3". Okay, but still, I mean, fair.
I get what you're saying in the extent of Clemson wide receivers. That when you're
they used to have them dogs, bro.
You're talking your atypical Clemson wide receiver. You're talking, your Mike Williams, your Nuke Hopkins, Martavius Bryant, your get up and go and catch it type of guy.
Yeah.
Right. I think Adam Randall will be that for us. Jake Brenning School could easily be that for us as well. I mean, he played the slot a lot last season when we were banged up. I think it's very important that TJ Moore and Wesco do give us like that youth benefactor, like I talked about already. But in the same extent, man, I definitely think we're going to be a more run the ball heavy type of team anyway. Cade, I pray to God that he progresses under Garrett. I mean, Garrett's known him since he was a sophomore in high school when he started recruiting him at SMU. But at the same extent, I have to say, I hope Dabo lets Garrett Riley run his offense. I've texted you about that many times. We've talked about it, but that's on the offensive side of the ball. The side of the ball I want to talk about is the side of the ball that wins football games, and that's the defensive side of the ball. I think we have a top 5 defense in the country. I think Barrett Carter, who is a Butt-Kiss preseason watch list player, who was the linebacker you were talking about, I think he's going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft this coming year. He's a freak of nature. Along with Peter Woods, you're talking TJ Parker, who were both freshmen last year that played exceptionally well. RJ Mickens, Avion Terrell, both guys that are safeties in the backfield that are going to be extremely helpful. Shelton Lewis is another guy that's going to be really good out there in the corner slot type of deal. Khalil Barnes, who is the ACC Defensive Freshman of the Year. I look for him to have another great year. He's just a great guy that you can line him up at the corner. You can line him up at safety, being free and strong. He played Mike a little bit last year as well. He's just a stout anchor type of guy for the team. I think the defense will keep us in a lot of games that we probably shouldn't be in. I think they'll keep us into that Georgia game. It's like I've said to you many times. I think if we can, more or less, if we can hold teams under 21 points, you're looking at probably a W because we're not going to need to score more than that ourselves. Our defense is just going to be that strong. I see us at 10-2, 11-1. But this is the thing I wanted to talk about because if you've been listening, for those of you that have been listening, the last 3 teams I've said 10-2. You could very well have a 3-way tie at the top of the ACC with
I
10-2
agree.
teams, man. I mean, I don't know how that would end. I mean, I know it's going to deal with who lost to who and when and how, but it could be crazy when you're talking FSU, Miami, Clemson all being 10-2. I mean, even Virginia Tech being up there at 10-2 at
I
the end of the
agree.
season. So
I was gonna mention that too. Oh, they really could be like that close of a race, tied at the end. Like we
for
don't know.
sure,
Like it's gonna be that crazy of a year this year in the ACC, man. I'm
for
looking
sure.
forward to it. Yeah, Clemson should definitely be one of those teams, man. They I'm still a little nervous because of how bad they were last year and how Dabo doesn't use the portal, but I'm still gonna take them for my ACC champion. I'm gonna roll with you on that one, and I'm gonna trust that they get it done this year. But
It's crazy
yeah,
when
I'm
a 9-4 season is a bad team. That shows you how good we have been. So
next man. Anyway, let's get to. I wanted to go over some bets just to recap everything we talked about, some over unders and what I'm gonna be putting money on throughout what we talked about, based off what we talked about. Um, Basically, really my favorite bet. First off, is I'm gonna have another 3 units on this 3-unit bet. I'm gonna have UVA under 4.5 wins again this year. Last year was 3.5. They're gonna give me an extra game. Sure, I'll take it under again. I don't see this team. Like I said, we both had them 16, 17 in the conference. I don't see them doing anything. Yeah, they have their quarterbacks back, but outside of that, head coach Tony Elliott, 6-16 as a head coach over there, like you said. The energy's just low. I mean, I don't think nothing's going to happen for him over there. That team needs a lot of help outside the
yeah,
skill positions.
for sure.
So yeah, I got Virginia under 4.5 wins. It's -110 on FanDuel, so I'm going with that again for sure.
Like,
What you
yeah.
got? Anything you like, BK, or not?
Well, we've already said a lot of them, in the first episode for me. Clemson, I had them over 9.5. I also like them for the ACC title. Um, it's definitely going to be a telltale year for us. I'm ready for it, but at the same, as well as I do, people are more or less expecting either a really big resurgence or a big failure. So find out what we get.
Right. Oh man. All right, moving on, man. Well, I think that about wraps up the conference, man.
For sure.
As far as breaking down everything. Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about real quick?
No, sir, brother. I just wanted to go into as well, just a kind of tidbit note. CJ Baxter, Texas running back, is going to be out for the year. That's tough work, especially for them.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, how Texas first episode we really liked them. Does that change anything for you or nah?
I still have the faith because, I mean, more or less they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more, in my opinion, anyway. It's kind of the guys behind the backups, step up. Let's find out. But that hurts. He is a very, very talented running back when you're talking about in the open field. So it hurts to lose a playmaker like that, especially before the season even starts. So
Right. Yeah, man, that's definitely a big loss. I don't know if it changes much for me how I think about him either. I mean, I think there's going to be running backs in the running back room that are going to step up. I know they
yeah,
recruited a good running back. I was reading Jarrett Gibson, I'm pretty sure is his name. But yeah, that is a big loss, man. CJ Baxter was supposed to have a big year. He didn't have the greatest numbers in 2023. I mean, but still, I mean, he didn't. I mean, still a big loss for the team, man. Needed him. Other than that, man, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about here on this first or the second podcast. Yeah, we got the I told you so stuff coming soon and the home report coming soon. We already talked about our teams basically, so no really need to go over them again unless you want to.
no, I'm fine. The only thing I wanted to note is, I'm excited. Just a little tidbit, Homer, a little note for me. I'm excited to have Ben Boulware back with the team. The Junkyard Dog played with Clemson on the 2016 National Championship team. He's going to be a D-line assistant coach. So I definitely think he's going to help with the D-line linebackers. I've heard he's had a great impact on Wade Woodaz, outside linebacker already. So, yeah, man, always happy to have, great Clemson legends back in the room.
Oh
That's for
yeah.
sure.
That's what's up. I actually think I'm going to the Clemson NC State game.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna
Heck
be
yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I'm going to that game, so that'll be fun. Yeah, I look forward to going to some games this year, man. It's gonna be a great college football season. Appreciate everybody for staying tuned. Next episode is gonna be next week. Breaking down another conference before the season, and then we're already a couple weeks away from the first kickoff. We got Florida State versus Georgia Tech. And then soon after that, my team plays Minnesota, where we're underdogs. So we'll talk about that coming up as well.
Okay,
Appreciate everybody tuning in.
Look forward to it.
Much love, everybody.